Welcome, crew, to What Are Your Three, a Channel 3 podcast, where we take a member of the Channel 3 community, discuss 3 games of their choosing, go through some honorable mentions and some other odds and ends for a nice little video game discussion. I'm Dan Tucker, and with me as always, Ray.
What's going on, everybody? Today's guest is a member of The Dad Gaming, and it is Rusty. Rusty, how are you doing tonight?
Not too bad, not too bad. How are you guys?
We're good. We're happy to have you. We've got a list of games here. We have some games. I had to look up one of these games for sure. I'm sure. Listen, I'm sure there's gonna be people out there who are like, "Yeah, you kidding me? Great series, been around forever. How do you not know about it?" I had to look it up. I'm excited. Always like to see different games here. And so we're going to jump right into it. Of course, when we talk about all kinds of different games and unique games, there's nothing more unique than this one, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. That's where we're starting with today.
Basically, this is causing not enough people on Channel 3 to be like, hey, can we talk about other games?
I had a research. I've never heard of this game before in my life.
You want other games, make a post about other games. I don't want to hear it.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I mean, that's what I've been trying to do with one of my picks was like, we got to come up with something a little different and off the beaten path. But Mario Kart 8 has been the big one lately just because of the people we play with. And that's the reason I picked it, just because of the groups, like the whole Chicago thing and everything else is just the making friends part has been the big reason for it.
So let's start with it. Where does Mario Kart start for you? Because everyone's kind of got different, entry points or things that they really loved about it. Where does Mario Kart start for you before we even get to 8? Unless 8 is just where it starts.
No, it started briefly. 8 is where like the big obsession came with, but it started on the GameCube. And then I got it on the Wii as well. And then did not have the Wii U, so then it was here Mario Kart 8. And it was actually Mario Kart 8 was later on in its life cycle. There was already, I think, one DLC in, because I started off with the dad with the golfing group, and I went the other way. I went from golf to kart, but instead of kart. So like this is still relatively new. I was not super into, like, I don't have the deep nostalgia for Mario Kart like some of the other guys do.
So tell me, why do you enjoy playing what has been tossed around or known lately as one of the most stressful games ever made? Tell me, why do you want to play this game all the time?
It's honestly, it's the chatter in the background. I mean, it is stressful. The game is stressful, and I end up ending the last quarter of the standings often enough that it's like, I mean, the results are basically my answer to everything. So it's just more for the chatter and the camaraderie than the actual game sometimes, to be honest.
So the DLC's finished, where we've gone through all the packs here. How does it feel? Because now you said you came in kind of when that first DLC was coming out. Now they're all out. How have you felt kind of like from your start to now, this kind of finished product of Mario Kart 8?
It's kind of funny. It's like I would like to see more, just because like I said, I don't have the nostalgia for the other things. Like I want more content, but like every track, even the original tracks, are still kind of new to me. So it's like I'm still kind of finding my way through some of them. But I mean, it's just crazy to think that they're going to go from this and start over at some point with a whole new game, and just how that's going to even work. But I'm really happy with what we have so far.
Yeah, I don't know if a new game. I mean, I guess a new game has to come, right?
Yeah.
It has to.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
Because Nintendo doesn't do continuing games. That's not their thing.
Yeah.
Wait,
because
re-releasing the same game 15 times isn't their thing?
No. This is re-releasing and continuing Battle Pass and updating is two very different things. those are two different. Nintendo hasn't done a Battle Pass. That's opening a whole kind of, the need to constantly update skins and whatnot. It's just not in their wheelhouse.
I just want to know where the panic is after all these articles in the last 24 hours about Mario Kart 8 falling out of the top game sales lists for the first time in 6 years.
Oh yeah, one of the best selling games. Listen, one of the best selling games of all time. After 6 years, hits a month where it wasn't in top 20. It might end up being in top 20 next month again.
Technically, it's 9 years.
Yeah,
it took 3 to finally pick up steam with a new system.
Listen, I know I sent that article out, but that's a panic article that was thrown out there by somebody. What were they? Were they 22nd the past month instead of 20th? Is that what happened?
Exactly, probably.
So what's meant? So you started in golf. You said with the dad gaming. What's it? How has that whole thing been? Joining the dad gaming. Was Mario Golf like how you got into the dad gaming in the first place?
Yeah, I've been trying to rack my mind now and remember how it all started. I think it was just like a random Facebook thing I found, and I don't even remember how the golf thing. I just eventually got the guts to be like, hey, if somebody just wants a human to beat up on the side of a computer, I can be that. And it just went from there. But I can't even remember what got me to finally just jump into it. But it just feels so random.
I mean, that group kind of started like a blazing fire. I think they announced it was happening, and I think Dan made it happen basically overnight. It was like, there's a golf game, we're gonna have a group, and it showed up essentially.
It was purely purely muscled into existence, and Ray was there for the ride. That was and somehow I hitched it to Jedi. I still feel bad because Sunday nights at 9:00 are terrorist o'clock for me around the house still. That I'm like, I can't get free before 9:30, so I'm just But we muscled that bad boy into existence. That's what happened.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. Like it got really, really low for a while, and now it's starting to get a new resurgence as we start to grab more of the cart people back over. Like, hey, you might want to try some of this.
It's time trials. Oh, this made a difference. I think anything with a clock on it gets people excited. Essentially,
you don't want none of these time trials, do we?
You don't want any of these time trials.
Yeah, Frizzen 02, and then Bits has to be the bad guy and just say, I'm not even a time trialer, but on this one, I'll kick your face.
I actually love on Channel 3 that Bits has a stackable the bad guy tagline.
Yeah.
It's the 2-time bad guy. It's absolutely amazing.
Oh, Jedi's getting it tonight. Sorry, no offense. I didn't mean to bring up. There's a fresh wound for Rusty here, but yeah.
Jedi is supposed to be the 2-time bad guy as well.
I was with Jedi in that championship, and then I had a couple of bad holes, and it was over. And Jedi everything he touched was gold in that round. So
I've played in one Mario Golf finals, and I like it. You're right. I had a great front nine. I was like, oh my gosh, do I really have a shot at this? And 2 holes go wrong, and it was all over.
Yeah, you can't have a mistake
so quickly.
Yeah, you can't have a mistake.
All right, back to kart. The build. You got to go race. Obviously, we don't have to use Waluigi anymore. Thank goodness. I don't care what anyone else says. Thank goodness I don't have to have that terrible, made up, not even a real character, Waluigi. Who are you using? What character? What kart? What do you want to do?
I'm always big on Link. I've always just liked Link. And when I first started playing Mario Kart 8, I chose him, and I felt like he was kind of balanced. And then as I've gotten better and paying attention to basic training and all that kind of stuff like that, I do kind of chase after some version of the meta that's out there. But this last Kart Gang season, our team chose Cat Peach with the Cat Cruiser, and that's actually a pretty darn good build, and I might stick with it for a while.
I'm just happy that Mario Kart finally made it so you can have ridiculous stuff like that and actually have it work well.
Yeah.
Really? Give me a good stage and a bad stage before we move on to the next game.
Stage I like a lot that I know a lot of is not a high thing on people's is Rock Mountain. I know that's not a crowd favorite, but it's one of the first few that I time trialed and did fairly well on, and have for the most part done well on. So that's why I like it. Bad track, and another not great to a lot of people, is Neo Bowser City. That last hairpin turn section just kills me every time. I cannot stay on the track, no matter what I do. So that to me is a bad track.
But it's a course you're legally required to play for the dad gaming. Somehow, somehow Joel wrote it into the unwritten rules of dad gaming. That if that course comes up, you must pick it.
Yeah, that and Dried Bones or whatever. It's like, no, those courses suck. At least to me.
I agree. I don't like Dry Bones either.
No,
I just think it's a little boring, to be honest. I like Neo Bowser City, but Dry Bones I just think it's a boring track.
Yeah, just there's nothing. I just hit that one last turn or whatever, and that one too, and it's like, nope, not any good run I've got is just gone. I'm
gonna have a lot of people angry at me when this one comes out. I'll say a lot of controversial things here.
Ray's going full shock jock.
That's what we're doing today.
There you go.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's move on to the second game here. a game that I will introduce the same way that Ray introduces Super Mario World. And I will tell you, you have made the correct pick. Congratulations. When you picked The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, the lone Super Nintendo entry, I should emphasize, for the Legend of Zelda series here. I'm just gonna. If there's a Zelda game, is this the one for you?
It's a toss up between this and the original.
We'll get to that one. Yeah.
This one, the reason this one hits mainly is because when I was a kid, I'm a kid of the 80s, we went from the NES. We went from the NES to the Genesis. I did not have a Super Nintendo. So I had a friend who had a Super Nintendo, and he had Link to the Past. And I got a taste of it, and I loved it, but I never had a Super Nintendo. It wasn't until college that I was able to get it on an emulator and actually finish playing it. And then get it, then I bought it when it came on the Game Boy Advance. If you remember they had it as one of the ones that you could get there. That's when I got it and really got into it. So it was a large, massive gap. But ever since then, I always try to play it whenever I can. I've got it on the Super Nintendo with the, with the online stuff and, all the different things. And just that's just a game I love. There's something about that whole world is just really stuck with me.
What was it about it? Because you described you and I are on similar timelines. Similarly, my family had gone to the Sega Genesis until the end of the Super Nintendo generation. Ray's unsheathing his sword though over there. I'm concerned. He untapped that sword. I'm waiting for him to drop an elbow on us from the 90s. Go ahead, Ray. Do it.
I was going to call you guys old, but that's all.
Take the shot. Yeah, there he goes.
I was going to say it was a cheap one. It was a cheap shot. I was going to say you guys are old. That's it. Continue. No, please talk about playing. Talk about the Game Boy in college. Please continue.
Now I've got to go ahead and get another one of these Miami kids from Ohio to come on the podcast and drop an elbow on Ray.
Game Boy Advance in college.
Game Boy Advance in college. I was playing the Nintendo DS in 7th grade. This is what I want. I need you to understand. This is what I need you to understand.
That hurts. That hurts.
We're getting another Miami kid on. Ray's done now. Okay, mute him. Rusty. Rusty, the grown-ups are getting back to talking here now.
Yes,
So anyway, so somewhere along here, so I was saying, my family went through a similar trajectory that somehow the Genesis became the system in the family's household. We got the Super Nintendo at the end of the life cycle, but same thing. I had friends with the Super Nintendo, but what was it like? You went over there, you got a hit. They gave you one for free, and you got kind of hooked. What was that?
Just one friend. It was just it's so funny. I can't put words to it. It's there was just something about it that just clicked, and I loved, and it was just mind blowing. And I think part of it too was at that time. I mean, this would have been high school, middle school, high school time. Just enough of that hit to get that feeling, and then also the missing of it, right? You didn't get to finish the job, and that incompleteness for years and years and years until college, and I got to really get the free time to sink into it. Because I'd play that, then I'd go back home and I'd play my Mortal Kombats and stuff like that at home. But there was something about that Zelda game, and ever since then, it's just stuck with me. It's just the favorite.
Yeah, there's something about the way Nintendo does these where you get the clean, whatever they're doing the best of it, right? You're getting the clean animations, the graphics look great. There's just something about how clean it plays, probably,
and also how much you can do. For Super Nintendo game, there's just so much, and the whole Dark World, Light World thing is what really, really sucked me, and that was just such a cool mechanic.
So let's talk. So you finally got to play it. Whatever you want to hit on the emulator, or again, as Nintendo is wont to do, they released the Super Mario Advances and the Zelda Advances just to re-release games on another iteration for us. Again, as mentioned, as they are wont to do 15 times. And we will buy them every time. Yes, go on.
Yes. Yeah.
So you finally got to crack it, huh?
Yeah, and also, this is probably where the age comes into, I'm not against looking for guides. The much later levels, I had to get guides to figure out how to get to, finish it off. Because I would start playing it, and then I'd get a certain amount into it, hit a wall, and then life gets in the way, and I forget about it. I come back, start over, hit a wall, life comes up, and eventually I was like, I'm going to get the guides. I'm going to look online. I'm going to finish this darn thing. It's like, holy cow. Like, it was just really cool. And what's really nifty too is with it coming out on the Super Nintendo with the Switch, is I actually got to play it and show my son. And we got as far as Ganon, and then I think Tears of the Kingdom came out or whatever, and that was the new thing he wanted me to play and wanted to watch me play. So he keeps reminding me every once in a while that we have to finish beating that Zelda. But it was cool to show him that, and he actually enjoyed watching me play a Super Nintendo game, which was really cool.
Did you have the same thing I had happen? Because I have been going through it again on the Switch, just in the background. Like, I'm powering through, just trying to get. It's one of the games I set up for Target just because I'm like, okay, it's fun, it's something different. And then I just found myself kind of playing through it, and I banged out the first 3 medals or whatever they are before I realized what happened, and muscle memory's taking over, and I'm just picking up like, oh, there's something over here. Oh, it's the jar. Or there's something over here, and it's like I'm finding all the like special items and things. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't even know why I'm compelled to go over here. I just remember I have to go over here.
Yes. Yeah, and you talk about, like, I got the mouse pad here, the him picking up the Master Sword out of the woods. So, I mean, yeah, it's a good game.
nothing like a prop for podcast gold. Fantastic.
We're gonna need a picture of that, and Dan's gonna have to use that as one of the hints.
Okay, I'll take a photo.
That works. Excellent.
That's a good one right there. I don't know.
Yeah, if anybody will know. It's a great mouse pad.
It's funny because my son, one of my son's teachers, has his classroom decorated with various video game things, and the original Super Nintendo version came with a map of Hyrule, and he's got that original map hung in his classroom. And I was there for parent-teacher conferences, and I was like, "Oh, you got to tell my son you got the map from the best Zelda game hanging in your classroom. Well done, sir. Good job."
Yes, that's awesome.
So, any items stick out? Any bosses that you really remember from this one?
I mean, with the recent replay, the one I like the in the Turtle Rock there, the one with the different elementals there. You got the fire and the ice. You have to use the different rods. That's cool. I really do like the one in the one of the dungeons where you have to use the hook shot to pull the eyeballs off and smack them. It's like in that green goop, like that's pretty cool. The boss I hate the most is in the third in the light world in the tower, the one that moves around with the tail, like the rattlesnake type thing, that if he hits you, you fall off the tower and fall down a level and to go back upstairs and start all over again. That's rage inducing.
It's funny because after playing Breath and Tears kind of as my back-to-back Zelda experience, I forgot about the magic meter. I forgot about, you used to have magic in these games that you'd be able to use too. Yeah. Now you get the rod with the stones and stuff. That's not the same as having the meter and having that third potion fill and all. Yeah.
And finding that one random cave to have the magic that you use in half, so you don't use it all in the same amount and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, that's right. Again, another one of those things you just kind of wander through.
Yep.
So how many times do you think you've played through this one at this point?
To completion, probably only a handful. Actually playing it, God, a couple of dozen at least, trying, starting and stopping, but actual to completion, not many.
What do you think gives it the staying power, though?
It's just, it's the traveling around. It's doing the different things, the different items. Just thinking about going up into the waterfall to see the Zoras to get the flippers, and going into the town, and just the bombing of things, and just the going up and down into the underground in the mountains and all the I really also like the tricks they did with the forest, made it look like it was an actual forest, with the clouds and everything. And then you go to Death Mountain and you can kind of look down and see like the cloud level down below and stuff like that. That was really cool. Like, to me, for some reason, that was mind-blowing.
All right, so we move on. Game number 3. We get an entire franchise here. We had 20 years worth of games. I had to look that up because I had not heard this. This is the Disgaea franchise. So, first, are you a general, like, tactical role-playing games? Is that something that you play a bunch or enjoy, or is this just a particular series that you happen to get into?
This is kind of a special case. No, I'm not. I played Final Fantasy Tactics, enjoyed it, but only once on the Game Boy Advance. I did not get into Fire Emblem, just it's not my cup of tea. And this one has just stuck. I think it's mostly the humor in the game. Like, especially if you look at the different names of the weapons and stuff like that, and then not just the names, but like the explanations for them are hilarious.
So when did you start playing this one? Because I had to look it up. This one started back in 2003. So we're 20 years. The seventh.
Yeah,
Seventh. I put in quotes because it's like they redo this game over and over again.
Yeah, so PS2 was the Disgaea 1. I did 2, 3, 4, and 5. I skipped over 6. Eventually I'll touch 7. Then they had a couple of offshoots, Maikai Kingdom and La Pucelle Tactics. I think I played those. And just there's something about just that thing I enjoyed. It resonates with me. It's fun.
Hey, I don't mean to correct you there, but you did just say the PlayStation 2 was 20 years ago, and that's not correct. You should check your facts again. No way that was 20 years ago at this point.
So. Oh no, it's definitely actually. Let me put this better.
Oh God,
the PlayStation 2 is more than 20 years ago. This game just happens to be 2003. PlayStation's been around since
PlayStation's 22 some years now. Yeah, 01 I think it was. Yeah, it's worse than that. Yes.
Yeah, I picked up the PS2 while I was in college. I think I was a sophomore in college. So
yeah, long time. So you've played through the series, most of the games here.
Yes.
From my understanding, there's like the three main characters are kind of the ones that show up every single time: Laharl, Etna, and Flan.
Yeah,
right?
They're from the very first game, and I guess just for the heck of it, they've brought them along as downloadable characters or special guests throughout the series. They're not always part of the main story. There's a different protagonist and a different setup, but sometimes they're downloadable or whatever, or unlockable throughout the rest of the series.
So when you're playing this game and you're making your team, what's your strategy? What's the style that you use to win these battles?
A combination of characters that look cool and characters that have a cool move set. There's a ninja that is really good at counters and will counter forever if you build it up well enough. And then you've got a couple of tanks that do really cool stuff. And then the magic users, some of them are just absolute beasts if you do the right way. So I like to spread it out because some of the battles I just spray and pray and just hope I get somebody out of there and just I throw as much as I can at the wall.
And so are these games? Do you ever go back and play any of them, or is it like you played them, you enjoyed it, and you just waiting for the next one to kind of show up?
Yeah, it's the second one. I usually don't go back. For the longest time up until recently, I was a huge person on, especially when it was a lot of physical medias, trading in games for the next one. So I've never really built up a library. So I don't have them to come back to. So I like to I get what I can out of the game and then I move on.
So you talked about the humor and kind of enjoying, the style of the game and the characters. Did you ever get into any of the offshoot media that they have? Because they've had anime offshoots, they've had manga stuff. Have you gotten into any of that?
Which is funny, no, because I'm not into anime or manga. It's just for some reason, again, this series just hits the right chord. But I'm not into any of the other stuff. It's just not my thing. But this works.
You might not be into them either. From my understanding, they take the style of humor that the game has, and then they up it in the weird category.
Yeah, it can be weird and very childish and stuff like that. But I mean, there's just some stuff that's just too darn funny. I wish I could remember some of the names of some of the weapons that just. They'll have the name would be pretty benign, but then they'll talk about gloves you can wear for your fist characters and fist it's don't make daddy tell you a second time or whatever will be the explanation for this pair of gloves or whatever. It's that kind of thing. It's all right, this is hilarious.
Yeah,
the guy's translating it.
Yeah, I picked that up when I was reading through. I was like, oh, okay, it's that kind of hilarious. It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, don't worry. PlayStation Plus is here for you. Some of the Disgaeas pop in on the PlayStation Plus periodically, so you can relive those memories of old.
Yeah, Disgaea 5 was on the Switch, and I played the heck out of that. And I jumped over 6 just because I heard that it just was not a good game, both in mechanics, all kinds of reasons. And then they've fixed a lot of that with 7. So I've got the demo for 7. I just haven't really sat with it too much because of all these other games that have been out.
All right, well, let's move into your honorable mentions. We're going to talk about a pair of games that, didn't quite make the list, but we're going to make our way through discussing. First of all, we're going to start off with the Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. Again, a game that has been with us for a decade now and firmly entrenched itself in our lives here. So tell me, where did Skyrim come in for you?
I got it when it first came out on the Xbox 360. So I remember the big, advertisements for 11/11/11 when they were going to release it. Ooh, you got a dragon. Nice. Yeah, I had played Oblivion before that and liked it, but this was a whole nother level. I got really into it, and I remember I was listening to a podcast at the time. I don't remember what it was, and they used the phrase, "You don't play Skyrim, you go to Skyrim." And I was like, that fits so perfectly with that game because you just get so lost in the world. And you just go around and do stuff, and what's that cave over there? What things? And you just go off and you just keep playing and just loved it.
So was this a one playthrough, stayed in it for hundreds of hours? Was this one that you took?
One playthrough through the life of whatever. I forget how long I played it, but I did not move. It's one of the games I have not repurchased. I have not, tried to go back to. I beat the main story. I think I did some of the DLC. And really, really enjoyed it, but kind of hit a time where I was like, all right, it's time for me to move on to other things.
I have the PlayStation Plus includes the upgrade for the PS5 because again, now a 3-generation game at this point. I've cracked it open because I want to start getting some targets in it, but I just have not. I've not had the time to fully embrace it yet to get in there and try and find some monumental. Yeah, I'm trying to find some like monuments to really go after here. Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of towns that have specific buildings, but beyond that, it's typical Bethesda game where it's like there's a lot of cut and paste of random, certain sections, just like Fallout. Like a lot of it looks the same.
A lot of gray sludge in this game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your race? What was your build? Like, what was your skill set? Your forte?
I was just like a random warrior guy. That I think I was a guy, and used a sword with magic, and then I had a friend who really worked up his sneak to the point where he could basically one-shot anything, and I really started working on my sneak to see how good I could do on that, and just it's funny, like when I play those kinds of games, when you can do anything, there's too many options, so I end up just kind of going shallow into many options instead of deep into one or two, so it's just kind of like trying to touch everything I can.
The thing I liked about Skyrim was it was a change from Bethesda because how you develop skills was you actually did them. It wasn't like, okay, I'm just going to level up and I'm going to put all of my XP into sneak. Like, no, you actually have to sneak around undetected and you will get XP for that and it will benefit your sneak skill that you can then use perks for. But yeah, you had to earn it if you want to get good at something. That's why I never got good at magic in that game. I'd be like, no, me hit with sword and bow and arrow now, so I can never.
No, I was sword and magic at the city. Boom, light him on fire, and then come hit him with the sword, and then to sneak, you just basically got to go walk around in the woods on your hands and knees forever and ever and ever to level that up. And I did that, and it was cool.
Yeah, you just keep wandering through Doomer caves or however you say it. And, they never see you there. You just see the eyeball. You just keep sneaking past them and just build it up, and away you go. So did you actually beat the game? Is Alduin still alive in yours, or are you part of the contingent that I think no one ever finished the game?
Oh, I made sure I beat the main dragon there. I beat the main story. I was like, when I was getting ready, like, this is time for me to move on. It's like I have to at least beat the story because you're right. Like you can just play and never beat the story, and I had to at least beat that.
Do you feel like you really ran this one through? Because you could get stuck in. This was the first game I think Bethesda put in their limitless limitless quest engine, which is just like, go find a book here and take it back, go find a book here, or go take this, and it was just like a really bunch of senseless fetch quests that you could get stuck in.
I mean, I felt I got my money's worth and I got my time's worth out of it. Like you're right. You could do certain things, and I know. And I'm now thinking back in the Wayback Machine. Like there were certain towns I barely scratched the surface of what I could potentially be doing there. But eventually, I got to a point where I kind of got bored with some of that stuff. Like I didn't want to keep moving with the random fetch quests or whatever. It's like did it move the story along? Was it interesting, or did it just not something I wanted to do? So like, yeah, I mean, I left a lot on the table. Like I feel like I got a lot out of it, but I also left, I know, a bunch on the table.
So are you looking forward to, I believe the latest indicator was 2026, give or take. They're looking at for the Elder Scrolls 6, 2026-ish.
Yeah, it'll depend on what systems. I mean, I'm guessing
it's only going to be PC and Xbox. That's it.
Yeah. So it's going to determine if I want to get an Xbox for that. Like time with, having two kids and everything has been pretty tough. So the Switch has become the main system. Like I had an Xbox One, like the first Xbox One, not whatever S's and S's and X's they've got now with the, and I barely touch it, and like I haven't kept up with all that. Like I've got my Switch, it's worked very well. So yeah, it'll take a lot for me to probably play. Like I love God of War and I love playing those, but I haven't bought a PS4 or 5, so I just go on YouTube and watch the stories. Like that's just the only way. That's so I can at least experience the stories of the game and go from there. But like I don't know how I'll do with the next one.
Okay, and your other honorable mention, you previously mentioned while we talked about Link to the Past, the OG itself, the original, The Legend of Zelda, Miyamoto's tribute to his wandering caves as a child in Japan. So
this game,
yeah, go ahead.
This one, I mean, being an oldie here, then I remember getting it with the original Nintendo back when it first came out, and this is the one that I can get myself overpowered before I even walk into the first level. Like I'll have the blue ring, the second sword, a whole bunch of stuff before I even walk into the first level, and just like one shot everything. Like I know where everything is in that game. And I've even done some of the second quest, and this was back before the internet. So my mom had known somebody who had paper maps of all the dungeons in the second quest. I wish I still had those, because I can't figure that thing out worth a crap. But like it was so cool, like that. Like you talk about a difficulty level. Everybody talks about how hard the first one is. That first quest of the first one is not hard. You play the second quest, you can lose your sword forever in that one. Like that is, they ramp it up, and walking through random walls that are only one way sometimes, like that's a whole level of bonkers.
So you mentioned this was your response for a quest of a game that was impossible to play without tutorials or an instruction book. So was it the neighbor or friends maps that really got you through this? How did you? Like you said, we didn't have the internet back then. All you knew was it's a shiny gold cartridge. Look at it. This one's made of gold. This was not the same. This was gold.
And you had to hit the power button and the reset button at the right time to save the thing on there. If not, you would lose all your stuff. Apparently, I remember all that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, first battery backup. Big. That was a big one. Saved for you, provided you didn't screw anything up.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean the first quest. Like I said, I there's no, like I can go through that with like almost with my eyes closed. But like that second quest, like when you beat the game the first time and then they say, hey, we got a second quest, that's impossible. Like I don't know how anybody would do that without a guide.
See, I just want to know what it was like as the testers of the game. They didn't give them any instruction. They gave them nothing. It said, here, play this game. And eventually the testers started to talk to each other and be like, hey, where did you wander off to? And they kind of had this like interpersonal communication thing. And I couldn't imagine. I mean, we were kids when that came out. Like, I don't know if I talked to anybody else who played this, but I can't imagine what it would be like now if we release something like that. And you have this community building wandering.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, it's bad enough that they moved a bunch of the levels around on you, but then once you go inside, it's totally different. Like, and this funny thing is about Zelda is I didn't realize this until probably just a few years ago. If you take the maps of the dungeons of the first quest and you put them all next to each other, it makes a big square. Like, because of the thing, like if you take, like somebody showed, like you take all the different pieces, they come together just to make a big square.
Now that makes perfect sense. Now I gotta. Not that I don't believe you. I gotta look that up now. Now I gotta see it for my.
You have to look it up because when you see the photo, it's like, oh.
What did you think was the most important? Because, like you said, this was a game. A lot of people get upset. They're like, Breath of the Wild isn't a real Zelda game because you just wander around and you just kind of do whatever you want. And guess what? The original Zelda was that way. You just wandered out and did whatever you wanted, and you kind of worked your way through it. It wasn't like, again, Link to the Past, you have a steady progression of you must go to this dungeon, you must get this item, you beat the boss with this item, and I say that loving that game. Then you use the next one to get into the next dungeon, which will then give you the next item to beat the next one. That's not the case here. You get to wander and find it. Like, so what was the most important thing for you while you were going through this one?
Eventually it just now at this age now it's more of like, how powerful can I make myself before I get into the first dungeon? Because you can break up the order pretty well for the first 3 or 4. After that, you kind of need pieces from the different dungeons to find the next one. But you can still, if you finagle it right, you can go out of order except for 9. You need to have beaten all other 8 to even walk into 9. But it's like beyond that, like you've got the freedom to do whatever, and just walking around getting the right amount of coins for this, and rupees for like, the potions or the ring, and just knowing where all that is. Now it's just more of like, can I, at this advanced age, can I remember where everything is? Is it really that much muscle memory? And it still is so far.
It is. Everything else will slip, but I guarantee you put on Zelda, and when you're in that retirement home in the corner, just sitting there with a cup of old applesauce, you will be able to wander your way through this. This will not be a problem at all for you.
Let me show you where the cheapest shield is.
Have you played this one? So you mentioned playing with your son, the Link to the Past. Have you cracked this one at all, or is it just not the same?
I tried showing him this one. I think the graphics are too simplistic for him.
Yeah, it's the play is just not as clean. It's not as clean, or like there's something about the cartooniness that's more pleasing to the eye as opposed to this, the 8-bit heavily pixelated early in the Nintendo system. Yeah, I mean, you're talking this was 86 for us. I don't remember what year it was in Japan or what the timeline was versus here, but like, yeah, it's a little rougher. This is not like Super Mario 3 where like, okay, I see where they're ready to jump to Super Nintendo, but not this one.
No, this was still very much blocky, 8-bit.
Just nice to have the OGs talked about here.
But it's true. Like, it's like there's just this handful of games like that. I mean, Tetris is another one. Like, no matter, every once in a while, you got to hit it up somewhere and play that.
And now that we finished talking about the oldest games we can, we move on all the way to the future. We're going from
there are older games, Ray. There are older games than that.
One of the oldest games that we first of all, Rusty talked about Tetris. So we're gonna go from Tetris all the way to the future to a game that we are looking forward to, Dragon Quest 12. So you played 8, you played 11, you're waiting on 12. I mean, this is a game 11. You've answered a bunch of quests with like 11 as your answer. What are we waiting for here with Dragon Quest 12? Why are we so excited for this one?
Because I'm hoping, I know that they're going to change it up. I've heard they're going to change up a lot of things, but I'm hoping just for more of that world. Like I was not into Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior. My first foray was 8 actually, and I think it was on the PS2, and I really enjoyed it and got through that. And then I fell into the hype for 11, played it, and it actually lived up to the hype. And it was just that was one of the first games I put over 100 hours into. And at least in recent memory, and it hit all the things. There was actually somebody, I think Spinoculi mentioned something recently on Channel 3 about looking for a Dragon Quest or Warrior game, and I was like, go for 11, man, do it. You just jump right in. It's a great game, and just like it just really, just everything about it. Just like the grind doesn't feel too grindy. The grind in 8 felt kind of crappy, but this one feels good. The story was actually really, really well done. And it grabbed me, and it kept me for a long time.
So did you 100% Dragon Quest 11?
No.
I wasn't sure with.
No.
I don't know if anybody ever has.
Okay, because
even if they had, that's not usually. I don't think I've got the staying power. So 12, I'm just hoping to get more Dragon Quest. Like it just, now that it's fresh on the memory, I want more, and like to see what they can do and maybe modernize it, and how that would modernize that versus like say the Final Fantasies or whatever, like how they're going to modernize Dragon Quest.
I just want to shout out the fact that you called out, you hipstered it and just dropped the Dragon Warrior in there really subtly for the original move overseas. Dragon Quest is too intimidating for the Westerners. We must call it Dragon Warrior. Make it sound cooler for those heathens over there. And meanwhile, it kind of made it just as nerdy. It really didn't matter. I only bring it up because that was a nightmare for me programming the library for Channel 3. Like, what do I do for this first bunch of them that like they're Dragon Warrior, but they're actually Dragon Quest? And God, yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, no, I mean and that's why I'm glad I never was really too into that early on, because I can't imagine trying to keep up with that.
Well, speaking of quests, let's talk about a quest. A question from the Channel 3 history books that we've picked here for you to discuss with us tonight. Let's talk about what your favorite video game sequel is.
Ooh. Jumps out, it's funny because we're fresh with this. Probably Disgaea 2 over Disgaea 1. Like that that was a good sequel. Like that, just the story, the characters, the mechanics, they just jumped on that.
Just iterate and improve situation. That like they took everything, they figured out what made it work, and just continue to roll into the future with it.
Yeah, and I mean, on a much more current one, I would say Tears of the Kingdom over Breath of the Wild. I think that would also be another good one. It's like and more of just they ranched up to 11 or 12 on everything that was good with Breath of the Wild.
Ray, we did the poll for that, right? That what did that end up being? Like a 99% blowout, basically for Tears over Breath.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty unanimous. Everyone thought that the game itself is, it does everything better. There's people that enjoy Breath of the Wild more. I think some people liked exploring in it more. There was something about it. I kind of get that too. Tears was very vertical. I felt like I climbed a lot more in Tears. But you could, like, they gave you the ability to do it. But I felt like I was going up and down a lot more in Tears. But it does everything better. Tears does everything better than Breath does. Than Breath of the Wild does.
It's just funny. Caster Garden was one a couple weeks ago. I was listening to that with my son. Like, no, he mentioned he dropped Breath over.
He's all in on Breath
Tears.
of the Wild. Yeah, he's all in on Breath of the Wild. And the last question we ask everyone on the podcast: what is your favorite feature on Channel 3?
Say right now it's the mini games. Those are a lot of fun, especially Target. And I got to throw in the Link to the Past ones. I always try to make sure, like I talk about those because those are just chef's kiss. I love the Tears of the Link to the Past ones.
Well, I guess I know what I got to get ready for the morning.
Those are fun because like I feel like I can get really close to those and just stuff like that. But I do like the mini games. Like those, that's part of my morning routine now. Is playing those 3 in the morning. And if I haven't done them yet, it's like, holy cow, what have I been doing with my day if I haven't touched these 3 yet?
I'll catch myself time to time, open the app, and I'll see the little number 3, and I was like, "Oh wait, I didn't do the I missed this." Yeah. Like my whole day is. I might as well just end the day at that point.
I missed it the other day. I blew it the other day. I think it was Friday or something. I didn't get them done. I was like, I'll get to it later. I will get to it later. And I am so angry. Like your streak. I got to Saturday. I said your streak of one day. I said, wait, what do you? No, what I did? Oh God.
It's fine. I let go of my Wordle streak, and like that's now I don't even come to it. Like I don't want to give up this streak just yet.
Oh, it's funny. I just programmed the Wordle quest. It's coming up sometime soon. I don't think this podcast will be out before the quest shows up. I just it popped in my head, and I was like, "Ooh!" Anytime these quests literally just like pop in my head while I'm driving, and I have to stop and write it somewhere so I don't forget. All right. Well, with that, we've made it to the end of another What Are Your 3 podcast. Rusty, thank you so much for being our guest. You can find the podcast at c3.gg/podcast, dropping every Wednesday morning at 3:33 a.m. Eastern on all the major platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. I'm Ray. Dan Tucker puts this all together. And for our executive producer, Joel Willis, have a good day, everybody. Good stuff. We got to update it. I got to look at the see because Google Podcast is dying at some point.
It is. They have not updated the RSS feed for YouTube yet, but yeah, you can.
Is that where they're shoveling you over to YouTube?
Yeah, they're pushing everything into YouTube Music, and but they said like it's dying in 2024, but they haven't. I really hope I don't have to. The nice thing is just all RSS feeds, so I just had to set them up with each of the the podcasts. But if I got to do something separate with a separate upload on YouTube, it'll be really annoying.
We just won't be on YouTube.
No, it will be because that's the way I listen to stuff.
Oh, you listen? Oh, you do Google Podcasts?
I'm the only reason Google Podcast is on here. I don't know if anybody else.
That's for you. I was gonna say no one else says. That's why they're shutting it down. By the way,
I didn't even know it existed. Like,
they're just consolidating it. That's the that's the main
Google,
thing. Because the other
always
problem was
doing
that they had stuff with their like data behind the scenes that they were keeping for places. So they're moving it all to YouTube and
which makes
YouTube. The YouTube app changed how it opens. It opens up to look like TikTok essentially.
Oh, see, I use the YouTube Music app.
It.
No, I don't. Yeah, no.
You don't even use the YouTube app. It's YouTube Music.
Oh, I use the YouTube app and it's got that little start, like the play button. Is that what TikTok does too?
So, like now, when you open it, it just starts with the shorts right away, right? It doesn't go home. At least I noticed mine does that, and I'm like, yeah, that's just TikTok.
We're too old. We're too old to even hear about this TikTok stuff. Someone's going to come to our houses and assassinate us for hearing about TikTok.
I mean, I've not bothered with TikTok.
I'm on TikTok every day.
I'm like, you know what? I can only do so many of these things, and I see myself constantly on Channel 3, doing things like, I can only do so many of these different things. Like, I got to at least keep some just keep some away.
I will say that anytime I've been trying to be more consistent, putting clips on TikTok, but they generally show up on Channel 3 first. TikTok's the day after.
Well,
I think
you've got to
feature Dan. I feature Dan more than myself on the TikTok.
Guess what? I don't know because I never see it. I'm never going to see it either.
It doesn't even see it. But I had Dan talking on TikTok 2 days in a row.
Can't wait. My wife's going to tell me before I find out. And every time she brings it up, I call it the TikTok just to annoy her.
The TikTok. Oh no, I had your clip. Getting angry at Twitch did pretty well.
Oh, great, wonderful. That's so good to hear.
That one did well compared to the others.
Yeah, someone at work told me to call it the TikTok to really annoy my wife. I'm like, yep, I'm just calling it the TikTok from now.
Yeah, the TikTok.
That's awesome.
The Facebook.
The MyFace, the InstaFace, you got to do the Bill Belichick stuff, really combine them all together, really make them sound like they're terrible.
Add some plurals to things. So that's the other old person move, like the Best Buys. Call it the TikToks.
The Walmarts.